In this lesson, we're going to examine a chromatic bass reharmonization technique that I used during my solo piano intro over the first two bars of Everything Happens to Me. So, the first two bars of this tune originally is C minor 7, F7, D minor 7, C sharp diminished 7, okay? So, the way that we're going to do this chromatic bass reharmonization technique, step one is we're going to maintain that C in the bass for the first chord, okay? Now we're actually going to change the quality, but we'll at least maintain that bass note. So, we're going to start with the C, okay? I brought it up an octave. So we'll start with C in the bass for the first chord. And then, basically we can change everything in the middle, but we want to arrive at that C sharp diminished 7 for the final chord. Okay, so we're going to target that too. So we're going to target landing here. But along the way, we can reharmonize the middle part by placing descending chromatic bass notes for each melody note, right, from C to C sharp. So we'll go. Now you notice here we run out of notes. If we did another note, then we run out of notes to land on here. Okay, so basically you have to choose one of the notes to not do a chord. And I chose that last one right there. So I did the descending bass notes until here, and then I landed here, okay? So, that's all we know so far. Landing here, okay? Now, step two is to harmonize those chords with whichever chord qualities that fit the bass note and melody combinations, okay? So, you can do a variety of things. What I did is this. So let's analyze what that is. So I could have started with the original C minor and then descended, but I started with C7. Okay, and I did. Basically, it's a sort of a tight range here. And the reason I started here and not down here is because if I started down here, then I'm expanding into really wide chords. So I'd be going, which you could have done that. But that's okay. But I started here with basically a dominant sharp 11. And the reason why I like this position is because you'll see starting from the next chord, basically I took this shape right here. Okay, so aside from my melody, look at the inner stuff, the inner voices. I'm doing my third and flat 7 for dominant, and then I'm sticking in a sharp 5 here, okay? And if you ignore the melody, look at what happens with the other voices. Basically, I just use that same exact shape going all the way down. The only thing that's different is this melody up top. And the combination of that, a steady shape plus a changing melody, creates a really cool effect, as you could hear here. And here I changed because, if I kept that going, my space is getting pretty wide here. So then I spread it out a little bit. Instead of the C, I filled it in. And that gives good spacing of the voicing too. I filled it in with the sharp 9 here, and maintained that same shape for E flat 7. Okay. Now you notice I decided to do all dominant chords here. Oftentimes you're going to find that that's the most common thing to go to rather than minor or major. Not that you can't do minor or major. You certainly could, but also the dominant 7 gives you that nice tense sound too. The only spot though that actually technically it should clash is, you notice over the G7, this should not work, right? Since C is in the melody, which is a void note for dominant chords, the 4th. Right? But for some reason, it sounds okay. And maybe as a standalone, it sticks out a little bit. But within that context, it sounds hip because it happens so fast that you don't notice it. But you're maintaining that same voicing shape. So because that same shape is maintained, the clash is not pronounced. Instead, you hear this really cool, slick moving harmony against, you know, a melody. It almost sounds like two separate units, right? One being and the other one being, and together it creates a really nice combination. Finally, I ended up at a non-dominant chord at the end here, D minor 7. Right? That's where I went sort of back to the original sound. Okay. So now a great way to practice this and work on this chromatic bass reharm technique is with what I call the stable tone exercise. So what this is we're going to keep a stable tone up top. Eventually you can change it, and I'll show you how I can do that too. But we'll start by just maintaining a stable C note up top. And then we're going to go C to C, descending chromatically with our left hand bass note wise. We're going to harmonize each bass note. Okay. So let's do an example right now. Okay, let's try one over this. How about if we go and that's just one possible way that you can do it, right? You may find that for some melody plus bass note combinations, you have multiple options that may work, right? If we take that very first one, right, you can do C major 7. You can do C7. You can do C altered 7 even. Right? You can do different kinds of, you can do C minor 7. You can do C sus 7, right? The options are limitless here, right? You have several chord options for that bass note and melody combination. Whereas, for example, the next one with B in the bass, you really only have one option that works here, right? Right? Just a B7, right? Because you can't do, this doesn't work for B major, right? You can't have a flat 9 up top for B major 7. You can't have flat 9 up top for B minor 7, really. So it's really B dominant 7 is your only option there, right? Maybe you can change the extensions. You have a couple of options, that or that. But the chord quality is pretty much just that. Okay, so you'll notice some you only have one option that works, some you have multiple options that work. So level 2 with this lesson is try going through some other melody plus bass note combos and see what options may work. Okay. Level 1 is just to practice that stable tone exercise with that stable C up top and descending chromatically. And like I was saying, don't just do it in one way, right? Try to come up with multiple ways of going through it, right? Here's another one, and this might be similar in some ways, might be different in some ways from the first time I did it. Okay, let's see what happens. So that one you notice maybe a couple chords I did the same. A lot of the chords I played differently from the first time I played it. Okay. Now level 3, you can also try this chromatic bass reharm exercise with different stable tones. Just pick one. D, A, F sharp, E. Right? What if we try with G as a stable tone? Okay. Okay. Let's see what that yields us. Let's go. Okay. So, and like I said, try some different ones too. By going through various stable tone possibilities and harmonizing it with each bass note, this is a great way to actually work on a couple things. Number one, you're getting familiar with different reharm possibilities, all the chordal options that each melody note presents. And the second thing is this is also a sneaky way to work on your voicing structures, right? Whether you want to do this at a 4-note harmonization, right? I did it with a lot of notes, sometimes 5 notes, sometimes clusters, but you could work on your 4-note voicing structures, your 5-note voicing structures, your voice leading in the process, your clusters, adding your extensions. So this is a great way to work on reharmonization and your voicing structures. Furthermore, I would look for spots and tunes where you can insert this, just like we did in Everything Happens to Me. And that was only for a couple bars, right? So this could just be even just a couple bars, even just a couple beats. It could be larger, 4 bars, but find spots where you can insert this, because this is a really great reharmonization technique. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. If there's a tune that you love applying this reharm technique over, drop it down in the comments. I'd love to know what you're working on. And please subscribe to the channel. There's going to be a lot more great jazz piano content coming your way, so stay tuned for more. And if you want to dive deeper with any of these skills, we go much more in depth in my personalized video correspondence lessons. Just shoot me an email. We can set up a free Zoom assessment. I can tell you all about how that works. But until next time, enjoy this. I'll see you in the next lesson.